The Flash, Season 7, Episode 4, titled Central City Swung. Now, this episode I thought it was okay. I didn't thought it was great, I didn't thought it was the worst, I just thought it was okay. Because here's the thing, the subject matters that they are talking about in this episode, I thought was pretty good. It's about trauma and how we move from that trauma and how trauma can make us better than worse, and don't let the trauma drive you who you are, and all these type of messages. And I thought, okay, that's really good, that's an interesting way to do an episode, but it does feel very light. It does feel like they didn't really dive into it much, except Iris goes to a support group, Barry feels troubled, and he feels responsible, because it's Barry, for God's sakes, of him feeling that he should have known that, the Iris that he was with was not actually Iris. All these things that we know the show for doing, so you get the big ass speech and all that. And it does, the drama aspect of it does feel very like, okay, this is just like, okay, I have seen this type of episode before, and it doesn't, for me, when it comes to something like trauma, doing the whole thing of, you need to move on from it, and it wasn't your fault, Barry, and you need to stop having the whole world on your shoulders and all that. You're just like, okay, this is just a typical episode, nothing new, nothing fresh, that kind of thing. But with the return of Hocus Pocus, Abracadabra, sorry, his storyline and the reason he wants to blow up Central City is a very intriguing idea, and that is trying to do a little bit more of exploring a post-crisis. Of what does a post-crisis world look like post 200 years, on like the 53rd century. And having someone who remembers X life, and now new memories are popping in, and finding out, okay, in a previous life there was this thing called crisis, and I had a family, and Abracadabra feels the family was stolen from him, and this life thing, and they feel weird for him. And for me, I found that was a really intriguing way to go. Now, it's very lighthearted and all that. It does. The thing about this show, it can get very goofy or very lightheartedness, to the point it's like, okay, guys, you're a little bit too goofiness. I mean, there's a line that, because, spoiler alert, there's not a single punch given between any of the fights. So the line is like, Flash didn't throw a single punch because he has a big heart, and he is like, okay, Jesus. So most of the time I'm like, you could cut this stuff out, guys. You might, but anyway. Which is kind of interesting if that's what the rest of the season is going to be. That is going to be, Barry, you robbed our lives. Barry, you robbed our memories, and this, and you should have died, not them, and that type of thing. And that, for me, that could be a very intriguing way to approach this. If that's going to be like maybe the big arc for the season, maybe it's like a mini thing. Because knowing that we're not going to have a crossover this year, so it's interesting how they're going to tell that story, knowing they have an extra episode to tell it. But at the end of the day, it was fine. There was nothing really nothing to complain about. Second, 2 Doctor Who references, and then it spanned 2 episodes, making Ralph, there was a Dalek reference last week, calling Ralph a Dalek, sounded like a Dalek. I was like, what Daleks do you know about? He sounds like K9. And then when you hear about time travel, someone mentions, oh, you mean like the TARDIS? Will you be time rewind me? That's, yeah.